Hi, hello. Thank you all for joining in today for this WVD event edition 3. I'm Anup, Microsoft MVP, and I'm specialized on the technologies similar to Microsoft Endpoint Manager, like Configuration Manager that is called as SCCM and Intune. You can follow me on Twitter at Anub Mannur Anub Manur. Today, let's go through some real world tips and tricks on how to manage Windows Virtual Desktop with Intune in Microsoft Endpoint Manager world. Right. So this is the agenda of today's session. Let's have a quick look at the slide. Now let's quickly understand the context here, right? Who should try this? Why do we need to manage WVD with Intune? So, as you know, WVD is a cloud solution, so as Intune. Intune is also cloud-based solution. Hence, if your organization's strategy is to move to the cloud, then it's worth taking baby steps towards managing WVD with Intune, right? When is the best time to start testing WVD with Intune management? I think this is the correct time to test or start testing WVD with Intune management. Microsoft roadmap is very promising in terms of cloud management of WVD, right? And the year 2021 would be very exciting in this area. Now, how? I think your organization might already have license to start using Intune. If you are already migrated to Office 365 and Intune management is being used for physical devices, then you all almost all already okay with WVD management with Intune, right? If you want to try this in a lab environment or something, there are trial versions available which can last for 60 to 90 days, right? So even 120 days, right? With the extension. So that is the best way to start WVD with Intune management if you want to try it out. What is the next question, right? What? Which part of WVD is supported with Intune and Intune management? My recommendation is to start testing WVD single session assigned use case with Intune now. Let's spark pooled and multi-session scenarios for the next year. Also, you can manage pooled and multi-session VMs with on-prem configuration manager deployments, right? Okay, now let's go through some of the technical configuration and prerequisites that we need to complete before WVD Intune management. First thing is Azure AD Connect configuration should be in place to support hybrid Azure AD join scenarios. So I'm using hybrid Azure AD join scenarios in my labs and my implementations in the real world. Right. So these are the prerequisites which you need to kind of make sure you already have this in place. Okay. All WVD VMs should be Azure AD join, hybrid Azure AD join. So what does that mean? All WVD VMs should be domain joined and then registered to Azure AD using AD Connect. If you want to enroll WVD into Intune automatically, using the group policy, you need these devices to be hybrid Azure AD join. Okay, so this is the only group policy required to be in place for this implementation of WVD management via Intune. Rest of the policies are deployed through modern management via Windows 10 CSPs using Intune. Normally, I use device credential options. That is the only option worked for me, as you can see in the slide over here. Now, let's have a look at conditional access. Some of the conditional access policies and Azure AD groups related topics, right? Modern management of WVD with Intune and Azure AD comes with some quick wins. Let's look into those. One of them is Azure AD conditional access policies. Modern security checks available with conditional access. This helps to enable multi-factor authentication without any complex infra in place. You can enable MFA for all users based on their current security risks and locations, etc. I have seen some security teams are very keen to enable MFA when WVD is accessing from personal devices. That is also a good use case for enabling conditional access with MFA. In modern management, I have seen Azure AD conditional access policies help keep security teams happy. Now let's look at Azure AD groups as well. All the application deployments, policy deployments should be targeted to Azure AD groups from Intune, right? So how we can handle that? You can target it to on-prem active directory groups also if those groups are synced to Azure AD. Okay, so we will see in the demo how to create some groups, how to create user groups, and how to create device groups, Azure AD device groups, dynamic and assigned groups for Intune management of WVD. Now let's speak about end user experience a bit. Let me remind you that we are talking about end user experience of single session assigned VM. The WVD VM will be ready to use immediately after the Intune enrollment process. Azure AD registration of VMs happen immediately after the VM provisioning process. So when I say VM provisioning process, when you add new VMs to a host pool, as part of that process, Azure domain join will happen, and automatically, once the domain join will happen, automatically the Azure AD registration will also happen. Hence, the resource records will be available in Azure AD well before the user enrollment. You can populate Azure AD groups with these VMs well before the user's first login. Hence, there won't be any delay in deploying the applications and security policies using Intune. Intune enrollment of VM happens once the user is logged into the VM for the first time. So this is for the Intune enrollment. This is happening because of the group policy which we discussed in the previous slide. Intune starts deploying security policies immediately after the enrollment process. Also, Intune installs applications like Office 365, antivirus, etc. during this process. You can deploy policies, applications either to users or to device using Azure AD users or device groups. Now let's check how to deploy security policies in the WVD modern management world with Intune. I have seen organizations follow CIS benchmark to secure Windows desktops and laptop devices. However, Windows 10 CSPs change the way of applying security policies. It is a modern way of securing the devices with MDM policies. As you can see in the slide, the National Cybersecurity Center of UK government did an excellent job to release benchmark to secure Windows 10 devices using CSPs. You can go through their website mentioned here to get more details about the benchmark system. I have seen many security organizations are approving NCSC benchmark as the baseline to secure Windows 10 devices in the modern world. I will let you try this with your security team. I don't know like how it will be, but I hope it will be an easy convincing method because it's a government organization. From Intune perspective, you can apply security policies from two or more places, but I'm going to explain two ways in this session. First one is security baseline. If you are part of a small organization and you don't have enough resources to try and test each and individual policies, then your best choice is to use a security baseline. Security baseline is a group of policies which Microsoft recommends should be applied on Windows 10 devices. So it's kind of a blanket approval for all the security policies, right? Another option, which is my favorite for WVD, is administrative templates. The best option in my experience is to use Intune administrative templates for WVD deployments. This gives more granular control over selection of policies and deployment. As you can see, you can deploy these type of security policies to device groups. Device based policies can be deployed to device groups, and user based policies can be deployed to user groups. As you can see in the slide, right, I have deployed some chromium policies to users as well as to the devices, etc., etc. Same for office security policies as well. Now let's look into application deployment options available for WVD Intune management. You can deploy almost all types of applications using Intune deployment frameworks. There are application types that are supported natively by Windows 10 MDM management tools, and those are like MSIX and simple MSI, etc. But there are other types of applications that are not supported, like EXE, complex MSI, via the native Windows 10 MDM channel. When you want to deploy EXE and complex MSI and some other application formats, then you need to convert all those applications into Intune Win32 format. Well, this conversion process is not a repackaging, but it's just process of zipping applications and its supported files. There are some excellent tools available from Microsoft and from community to convert all your EXEs and complex MSI apps to Intune Win32 format or Intune Win format. I want to highlight one tool from Damien here, and this will help you to convert your complex applications in 2 to 3 minutes into Intune Win format. Intune has an application model which is similar to SCCM application model, if you are familiar with. Okay, you can use Intune app model for WVD deployments. You can also deploy PowerShell scripts through Intune deployment framework. You can also easily deploy WVD optimization tools using Intune Win32 format. We'll see more details in the demo, right? Let's go into the next slide. So in this slide, we are going to see more details about patching, how patching and Windows upgrades are managed in WVD modern management world with Intune. The big difference here with Intune management is it is using Windows Update for Business instead of WSOS. Intune helps to configure the Windows Update for Business policies for monthly patching and for Windows 10 upgrades or updates. That means you don't need to download or you don't have to download the patches to WSUS and deploy it from there. In a traditional world, you normally do that, right? So you will see more about configuration details, targeting, and notification options of all these policies in the demo. Now, this is the demo time. Let's go into the demo and see what is stored. Now it's demo time, right? Now let's look into some of the real technologies, right, which we are going to use in WVD management via Intune or WVD modern management scenarios. First thing I mentioned in one of the initial slides is Azure AD Connect configuration. So this is what I was mentioning, I was referring to, right? I have installed Azure AD Connect and my identities are synced with the cloud. Now, in Azure AD Connect configuration wizard, you would be able to see an option to configure hybrid Azure AD join scenarios. So you need to enable this and you need to make sure that all your Windows 10 devices are hybrid Azure AD join. This will help you to manage WVD VMs with Intune. Okay. Now let's look into the group policy settings which I mentioned. Okay. And this is the group policy setting which I imported from ADMX template for Windows 10. I have imported this policy and applied this particular policy, right? This is the policy from administrative templates, Windows components, and if you come down to MDM over here, you would be able to see two policies. So I'm going to enable this. I have already enabled this, and over here there are two options: device credentials and user credentials. I always use device credentials. Let's move over to another VM over here to show some other interesting demos. So we talked about the conditional access policies and quick wins, which you can get with conditional access policies in the slides, right? So this is the conditional access policy which I created for WVD, MFA, and if your security team is asking you to have some additional modern security, then this is the way to go ahead with that, right? So as you can see over here, there are different configurations which you have to go through to create a conditional access policy for WVD. Some of the interesting things I am going to share over here, right, which is very relevant for WVD. Okay, user groups. So this is the targeting, which users or which users you should be deploying this particular conditional access policy. So conditional access policies can be deployed to user groups. So this is one of the user group which I use. Okay, all these WVD users will get this conditional access policy. And the next thing is cloud apps. This is very important, and you need to make sure that all these applications are part of the list. Then only the conditional access policies for WVD will work as expected. Now let's look into the conditions. I'm not going to cover the entire conditional access policy creation process. That is a bigger piece, but I'm going to concentrate only on the WVD scenarios here, right? WVD specific scenarios here. As you can see, there are a lot of conditions available here, right? You can select the device platform. I have selected all the device platforms. So I'm not restricting any device platforms over here. Otherwise, you want to restrict some device platform from accessing WVD, you can do that by selecting this to access WVD. But I'm not doing that. I'm saying any device is fine. And you can select the locations also, right? You can select the trusted locations. It's WVD access is allowed only from the trusted location, maybe from your office premises or non IP ranges, etc., etc. So that can be done. Now let's go into application client application. So, which are the client applications allowed? In WVD context, we are allowing browser client as well as the RD client from mobile apps or desktop client. So that is another interesting scenario which you want to check through. And device state preview, etc. There are a lot of configurations like that. If you are interested, you can go through it, and there are a lot of documentation about this. And the other one is access control, right? How are we giving access to WVD with conditional access policies, right? So as I have mentioned in the slide, this is the option to have multi-factor authentication in some scenarios. For example, if your user is using WVD from a personal device, some of the security teams are very interested to enable this option, etc. Right? So that is control selection, and you can see this is hybrid Azure AD join. If the device is as a hybrid Azure AD join, then it will allow the user to access. Okay, so that was a quick overview of conditional access policies which you can set up. So now let's look into the groups which I mentioned. All right, which are the groups you can use and what are the groups available? For Intune management of WVD, you need to use device groups, WVD device groups, WVD user groups, right? So I have created some dynamic device groups for WVD management. If you can see the dynamic query of Azure AD, this is basic group, and this is segregated based on the display name of the VM, right? In WVD, you have a session host prefix option. When you try to add a new session host to the host pool, right? So the same logic I'm using in Azure AD dynamic groups, okay, to automatically populate the Azure AD VMs into a group. So the deployments, application or security policy deployments from Intune will be pretty easy. And as you can see, there are some user groups also available. I have created Azure AD user groups also. So creating Azure AD groups is straightforward. Probably you are already using it for your session host assignment or VM assignment within your host pool. So similar kind of groups can be used for Intune application deployment. Now let's move to my WVD deployments as such, right? So as you can see, there are two session hosts available now in this particular host pool, and there is another host pool which has one session host available. So let's go into the Intune portal now and see what is happening there. So this is Intune portal, right? This is endpoint.microsoft.com. This is where all the Intune management happens, right? All the fun happens over here. Okay, there are non-WVD devices also listed over here. So let's find out WVD devices, right? And let's search for WVD devices. There are two WVD devices available now, and you can see this test one, test WVD is a device, and the other one is this one. If you click on that, you would be able to see all the details like how many applications are deployed, what are the details of those applications. So I have deployed Microsoft Edge, company portal application, WVD optimization pack. I have deployed, right? I have deployed Office 365 application to my WVD, and I have uninstalled all lot of default applications from Intune, right? So I have removed those application uninstallation scripts from WVD optimization tool, and I used Intune native Intune feature to do that. And as you can see, device configuration over here, and you would be able to see like monthly patches deployed, that kind of policies are deployed, right? And hardening policies, security policies are deployed. So this is basically the end user experience, and you can see this is the VM which we are talking about now, right? So in this start menu, layout is there, and you can see the Teams Edge and everything is kind of installed, right? So those kind of things are installed. Now let's connect to WVD, another system over here. Okay, and see what is happening. Okay, so this is another session host which I am launching now, and we will see what is happening with that, right? At the moment, you can see so the layout is different during the enrollment, but after a few minutes, it will change to this layout right over here. Now let's look into some of the security policies which I mentioned in the slide. So endpoint security is one of the security node which can help to deploy security baselines, etc. I talked about the security baselines in the demo. There are security baselines available for ATP, Defender ATP, Microsoft Edge, and Windows 10, right? So if you want to deploy baseline security baseline for Windows 10, then you need to go to properties, and you can check which are the policies applied automatically, right? As you can see, voice active apps from lock screen is disabled by default. So these are the best recommended policy settings from Microsoft. So this is not specifically best recommended for WVD at the moment. That is why I mentioned it is better to use administrative templates rather than security baselines for WVD at the moment. But probably in future, maybe Microsoft will come up with some WVD specific baselines also. I don't know. Probably this is an item for user voice. Okay. So go back to devices and see what are the security policies I have implemented through administrative templates. So let's check with WVD, right? Search with WVD. So as you can see, I have configured account hardening, user account hardening security policies through administrative templates, and Chromium device-based security policies are configured. Let's check the user hardening, right? Policies. Click on that, and you can see nice reports over here. You can see two devices it got deployed, and if I go to properties, you would be able to see what is it exactly? It is deployed to my user group. I'm sorry. It's deployed to device groups over here, and these are the policies settings. So let's check. These are the settings, configuration settings. Okay, let's edit it and see what is the settings for this particular user hardening row. So if I go to all settings over here, you would be able to see do not do not display password reveal button, right? So this is the security policy I have enabled. For example, if I want to enable some other user hardening policy, sorry, this is based on device hardening. So this is not user hardening, this is based on device hardening. Now let's let's see what is this particular policy, right? Allow access data sources across the domain. So if I want to disable this particular policy, part of my security team's requirement, then I just need to select the disable option. I just need to select the disable option and click OK and save again. As you can see now, there are two policies. Now let's go back to Windows and WVD. Some other. Let's look at the user policy, Chromium-based user policy, user-based security policy, which I deployed. On one of the device, it is pending, and one of the device it got installed. As you can see in the status, right? Deployed. This policy is deployed successfully. So this is part of the troubleshooting step you want to, if you want to look into. You can go into device status and see why this is pending and why this is successful, etc., etc. If you click on this, you will get more details of that, etc. And then you can go to device configurations and check what has failed, etc. Right? Okay. So let's go back to that particular policy over here, user-based policy, Chromium user-based policy, and go to properties and see what are the policies I applied over here. So allow cross-origin HTTP basic authentication, that is disabled. Access to sources across domain, that is disabled, right? So if I see, these are deployed to user groups. This is the user group settings, and this is deployed to users rather than the device groups. Now let's check the start menu configuration, which I mentioned. So this is an additional policy which I deployed to configure the start menu for the end users. So if I go to properties of the settings, you can see this is the layout which I proposed and deployed, right? As you can see, you can do all these fun stuff in Intune without any much trouble. It's pretty easy. This is not kind of a rocket science, right? And if you want to edit the settings, you can edit it and go back to start options from here. Layout is there, and what I did is basically I blocked some of the things, right? Something like shutdown button I blocked, disabled that. Hibernate button I disabled it. Switch account option I have disabled it. Those options are disabled for start menu. So this is pretty much a straightforward option and very user friendly or admin friendly. And as you can see, you have the user experience in front of you over here with the tiles and start menu layout, etc., etc. Let's close this, and now let's move to some of the patching stuff which I showed. It's also part of the devices node over here. And in devices, if you filter with Windows, as you can see Windows, I have filter with only with Windows. And you can see Windows 10 update rings. So Windows 10 update rings are here. So this is monthly. Windows 10 update rings are for monthly patching, in my opinion. You can see some interesting options here: pause, uninstall, and all. So there are detailed blogs available about that if you are interested. And you can see succeeded these two policies for two VMs. This policies got successfully deployed. Okay, let's go into the properties and see what are the configuration options available here. So this is the configuration option. I edited the settings, and you can see the servicing channel you can select. Semi-annual channel I selected. I allowed Microsoft update, product updates, driver updates, etc., etc. Quality update deferral period I selected 7 days. So after second Tuesday of every month, when Microsoft releases the monthly patches, there will be a 7 days delay, and after that only this particular monthly patch will deployed to these VMs, right, in this scenario. This is very helpful for creating ring based deployments. If you want to immediately deploy some patches to some of the missions, you can set this up zero. As I mentioned in the slide, this is based on Windows update for business policy. Okay. And this is for feature updates. So feature updates is basically Windows 10 updates or upgrades, right? For example, Windows 10 1909 to 2004 or 20H2 upgrade. So this is the feature update. So I kept the maximum value here because I don't want to control feature updates from this policy. This is only for the monthly patching, so you can configure the user experience. I'm not going to go through the entire configurations over here, but there are a lot of documentation available about all these. Now let's look into the feature update configuration over here, right? So that is all this one. If you want to stay with your version of Windows 10, right? For example, if you want Windows 10 1909 for all your WVD VMs, you need to use this, and you can see deployment settings over here. If I click on edit, you can see if you want to keep all your VMs in 1909 version, then you can set up this policy. And for example, if you want to keep all your WPD VMs or session hosts with Windows 10 2004 version, you don't want to upgrade to 20H2, for example. You don't want automatically your VMs getting updated to 20H2 whenever Microsoft releases 20H2. Then what you can do is you can set up this particular policy to 2004. So all your VMs will be in 2004 version, and it won't get automatically upgrade to 20H2. Now let's go into applications. We talked about Win32 applications and different types of applications. So this is the application node which you can see over here. And I filter with Windows applications because WVD, we are deploying only Windows devices and Windows, and let's see WVD, search with WVD related application. So I have deployed Office Pro Plus for my WVD VMs. I have deployed optimization package. So if I click on that, this got installed on 3 devices, and as you can see in Office 365, I have deployed all themes, etc., etc. Um, and I have deployed to this device groups. Let's check how to create an application, right? Click add over here to create an application and select if you want to deploy out of a box applications like Office 3 or Edge. You can directly select this, and this is pretty easy way of deploying Edge and Office 365 application. And I talked about Win32 application. Optimization pack is the Win32 application, as you can see over here. Let's close this and see. The type of application is Win32, right? That is Intune Win32 application. I introduced tool also to convert all your EXEs and complex MSIs to Intune Win32. So this is that particular application. So if you want to deploy those kind of applications, so this is similar to SCCM application model. If you know what is SCCM application model. So Intune Win32 and select Intune Win application. Over from here, I can select some Intune Win30 Win applications and go through the entire wizard of application requirements, detection rule, dependencies, etc. etc. I'm not going to go through everything over here, and there are resources available. There are a lot of videos or documentation available in the blogs. Okay, now let's see the other thing. interesting stuff. Last one of my demo, right? PowerShell scripts. If you want to deploy PowerShell scripts, you want to go back to devices and filter it with Windows, and you can see PowerShell scripts. So in the PowerShell scripts, I have, for example, I have used a PowerShell script to add a domain, sorry, admin user to a WVD. Okay, and you don't need to use this. You can use some third-party tools like admin by request, or um, I don't know, beyond trust, right? Beyond trust applications to manage your admin users, and for privilege access management system for WVD also, right? But this is just to show you PowerShell option. I just deployed a admin user. I added an admin user to my WVD VMs using this PowerShell script. So it's just normal PowerShell screen. You can import the PowerShell script from here, and that will ensure that see the script is getting uploaded, etc., etc. Right, and then you can deploy to device groups. I have deployed this to device groups. Right. Okay. So that is it. The demo side of things. And that's it from my side for this Windows Virtual Desktop Community Event Edition 3. Thank you all for attending this session and hope you liked it. See you next time. Bye bye. Take care.